So a bunch of OnlyFans models went to a gun range in Texas, and TMZ posted the video. And out of everything they could have blurred out, they blurred out the gun. Not the women, not the cleavage, the gun.
You're recording. Yeah.
Are you good?
Okay.
Feel good?
Hold on.
Yes?
Yeah. Okay, good.
So here's what happened. 15 creators from a private club called The Circle, which is basically kind of like a Soho house for OnlyFans models, they took a trip out to Copperhead Creek Shooting Club in the Texas Hill Country for some firearm training. They got a safety lesson, they got walked through the fundamentals, and then they started lighting shit up with a bunch of different guns. Now, I come across this on Instagram on TMZ's page, so we already know what kind of story this is. This isn't a New York Times investigative piece. This is TMZ. They lead with skin and bullets and then let you sort out the rest. As they reported on their website, some of the top creators of OnlyFans got a lesson in gun safety down in Texas. They had their boobs out while they squeezed off some rounds, and it's all on video. That's what their article says, word for word. Boobs out, squeezed off some rounds. That's what TMZ wrote. That's what TMZ stamped their name on. So they wanted you to know exactly what kind of footage we're dealing with. And let me say this up front. I ain't got nothing against OnlyFans models. Nothing. I don't subscribe to it, but I can't judge it. They do what they do because of the army of guys that are paying for the shit. So I'm not gonna sit here and pretend to be the morality police. You wanna shoot guns out at a Texas range with your friends and your titties out? You're welcome. This is what Texas is. This is what the Second Amendment is. Anybody who wants to be a part of it can be a part of it. I'm glad they went. I'm glad they had a good time. But then I looked closer at the actual video, and then I saw that something was off. I'm watching this thing, and I'm sitting there thinking, why are y'all blurring stuff out? This is TMZ. TMZ doesn't blur shit out. I've been on Instagram since the day this app launched. I've seen things on this platform I cannot unsee. People dying in real time, whole bodies, war footage, cartel videos. I have seen everything. If TMZ wanted to bypass Instagram's content rules, trust me, they'd find a way. So what are they actually blurring? The damn guns. They blurred the guns. They left everything else on the woman completely visible, the outfits, the skin, all of it. And they put the censor blur on the guns they were shooting. I want you to think about the editorial meeting that had to happen for this shit to happen. Somebody at TMZ pulled the footage, sat down at the editing bay, and made a serious decision. They looked at the bodies and said, yeah, that's fine, roll with that. They looked at the cleavage and said, yeah, that's fine. That's the whole reason this is going viral in the first place, leave it. Then they looked at the women shooting the rifle and said, hold on, wait a minute, hold on. The rifle? The piece of metal? The chunk of machinery sitting in her hand doing absolutely nothing on its own? That's where we draw the line. That's the obscenity. That's what we have to protect the public from. I'm dead serious. That's the actual hierarchy of obscenity at TMZ. Bodies, cool. Cleavage, cool. Women shooting on camera, cool. The gun itself, censor it. Censor it. That's a religion at this point. That's the only frame that can explain this decision making. And here's the thing. I'm not guessing at TMZ's worldview from a blurry Instagram post. I've actually been on their show twice to have this exact conversation. So when I tell you what they actually believe, I'm not theorizing, I'm reporting from the field. The first time was right after the El Paso and Dayton shooting in 2019. Here's how Harvey Levin opened the conversation about my constitutional rights.
We're speaking specifically about assault weapons, assault rifles, where you can...
Why not ban them?
Right.
Why just however many there are, whether there are 4 or 4,000 laws, why not ban assault weapons, since that is the weapon of choice for these crazy people?
Just ban them. That's the entry point. Not what's the constitutional analysis, not what does the data actually say, just why not ban them? That's TMZ. A year later, I was back on their show. Different news cycles, same exact framing.
Given the climate right now, doesn't it make sense to concede at least assault rifles? Because we are on the precipice of something really bad in this country.
Concede at least Assault rifles. That's the language being used. But you don't concede a right. You either have it or you don't. A right you can be asked to surrender every time the news cycle gets bad. That's not a right. That's a privilege on a timer. And here's exactly what I told them on their own show.
We're talking about the right to bear arms. That is not, and never has been, an absolute right. So given that it's not an absolute right, that there are certain weapons you can't have, why not add assault weapons and semi-automatics?
No. The right to bear arms is an absolute right. It's the only constitutional amendment that has literally stated in it shall not be infringed. That was me on their show years ago, telling them to the face what the Second Amendment actually says. And here we are, same network, same brand, still can't even show a gun on screen without a censor blur. The position is the same one I was debating Harry Levin on about in 2019 and again in 2020, because this is the worldview. This is exactly what the anti-gun left actually believes. At the deepest level, they believe the gun is the actor, the gun is the killer, the gun is the one doing the assaulting. That's why they call them assault rifles. That's why they sue Glock when somebody else commits a crime with the Glock. That's why New York's governor wants software in 3D printers to stop the printer from creating a gun, as if the printer wakes up and decides to do crime. They genuinely, honestly, in their souls believe the object has agency. And once you believe that, blurring the gun and leaving the body actually makes sense. It's consistent with the worldview. The body is just the body. The gun is the demon. That's the level of seriousness we're dealing with from people who shape our nation's media and write our nation's laws. And here's the part that gets me. The only reason this story even exists is because of the gun. That's the whole hook. OnlyFans model shooting guns. That's what gets the clicks. That's what gets the views. If those women had just gone to a Texas pool party, TMZ doesn't run the story. The gun is what made it viral. So TMZ used the gun to get the engagement and then blurred the gun to pretend they're above it. They exploited the exact thing they're acting offended by. That's performance dressed up as a principle. They're not actually offended. They want the engagement of the headline with the moral high ground of the blur. You can't have both. You need to pick a lane. Now let me be fair for a second. Is there a chance they blurred the gun because the social media platform suppresses gun-related content? Yeah, maybe. Who knows? A lot of gun pages get shadow banned. That's a real thing. But that's just a different version of the same problem. Because then we've got an entire platform or platforms that has decided that legally owned firearms are something to be hidden, throttled, and censored and minimized, while explicit content from those exact same models roams completely free. Either way you slice it, the gun is the obscenity for them. The legal piece of property owned by over 100 million Americans, protected by the Constitution itself, is treated as more offensive than nudity on the same platform. That's where the country is right now. That's the cultural soil we're trying to defend the Second Amendment on. So if you ever wonder why the conversation about guns in this country is broken, this video is the answer. This is what we're up against. A media class that will show you a body and hide a tool. A network that has been pushing the same exact angle for years. I know, I was the guy across the table from them. And the only way it changes is if we keep calling it out every single time it shows up. So if this video made you laugh, made you mad, or made you do both at the same time, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell, drop me a comment, and share this with somebody who needs to see it. Oh, and if you want to know where you can get this awesome hat that I'm wearing right now, along with a bunch of other fabulous 2A gear, I'm gonna put a link in the description section of this video so you can check it out.